Alright, Maddie, we're recording. Alright, we don't need to do introductions. This is Luke Hunter, graduate.
Hello.
Photography ninja. Specialising in automotive, but if you have a look at the photos he knocked off during the fashion shoot, fair to say he specialises in that as well. Luke is going to take us through all the bits we shot last night in the freezing cold with the Falcon Coupe. Is it a Falcon Coupe?
Yep.
Yes!
The XVGT.
I know all my cars. So what I'm just going to do now is zoom in so we can see Luke and the screen, and he's going to start talking any minute now.
Hello. Hello, class.
Do you want me to sit with you or you're right up there?
So I've not gone and edited really any of this together. And we took all the exposures last night, so we did about 4 or 5 of just the car and the light painting, and various reflections on the car. So you can see on the car here, you can't really see this top line over the hood, and then down the back of the car here. So probably won't end up using that. But this one, we've got a really crisp line over the hood, the side of the car. We can even see the roof line there. And then down the back, and even the wheels are pretty good for that shot. So we've got some reflection off the ground, so people can actually see where the car starts and stops. So that's probably going to be a good one to use. And what we're going to do is, probably will do a few minor adjustments and stuff in Lightroom, and then we're going to kick over to Photoshop and smash out some multi-layered sort of composite stuff. So yeah.
Hold tight.
Yeah. Hold your hats.
So look, you're going to edit one and then sync the edits across all of them?
Yeah, so when I import them in, we'll do an auto align, and I'll show everybody how to sort of do that as well. So I probably should have some basic stuff before the camera starts. So this one with lit. So the reason why we go over with light sort of each edge of the car or each panel sort of thing, one by one, and I chose sort of this shaped car, this Falcon, so that it doesn't have heaps of lines on the car either. Otherwise, we're going to get into like 15, 20 photos just for sort of the side of the car or the front of the car or the hood, with all the different lines and stuff on it. So it's essentially it's like illustrating or drawing over a car to bring it off out of the darkness. So
yeah, cool. And I think we all left with a bit of an appreciation for just how much goes into one of these frames. So
I hope you did. There was a lot running around.
yeah.
So what I'm just doing is I'm making sure all these sliders are sort of the same point, so that when we do put them together, you're not going to see harsh edges where it's too black or it's too white in other edges and things like that. So that it all blends together itself really well.
Like a movie film.
Yeah. So just going back and use. So in my mind, so what I'm going through in my mind is I'm putting it together in my head as we go through these shots. That's why I sort of flick back and forwards. So we might be able to use the flame on the ground here at the front. I'll do the mouse there for that shot, and then go to this one, and then have the firewall come around. We can do whatever we want basically, whatever our heart desires. So what we'll do is we'll highlight these. We won't use that first one. What I usually do, we export it. Usually I export it as a PSD because I like to try and keep as much data in the photo as we sort of can keep. So export as a PSD. No other settings. Keep all the metadata. Do nothing. We'll just choose a folder for my own benefit. We'll just say USB GT. Yeah, creative file naming at its best.
Yeah.
So and then we'll go hero, fire, photo, and then I'll dump all of my bits and pieces in here. There is, of course, other ways to do this, and Ben will have shown you in class that you can export directly out of Lightroom into Photoshop. I've sort of hacked together my programs and stuff, so it won't do it for me. It'll try to because the Photoshop I'm using is a different generation to the Lightroom I'm using. I'm using a very early sort of Lightroom, so that's why we aren't doing things like that.
Yeah, that's all good. But the important thing is I'm already seeing very methodical.
Yeah.
And ordered and everything. It's not a scattergun. I'll edit this photo, then I'll save it. You've edited your photos consistently.
Yep.
Then we're exporting them. We're taking the time to put them in folders where we can find them again.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all very. It's just
order of
good,
operations.
slow, smart work.
Yeah. So we'll end up going to File and then Scripts, and load files into Stack. We'll browse those files. It'll send me somewhere weird.
We've used load files into Stack a bit too. Remember when we did those photos where we were all in 2 places at once or 3 places at once? Yeah. So this is one way to use. It's not just for those sort of photos. You can. Yeah. Well, essentially, it's a photo where the lighting is the different characters in the shot. So every different swoop of a lighting is
a different part of the photo. And this necessarily isn't the right or wrong way to do anything. This is just how I learnt. I sort of learnt on the run, and it's worked for me sort of so far. I find maybe that this is a bit of taking an axe to something delicate, but if you have some patience and stuff, it'll work this way. So we might just try that again too, because I didn't hit the auto align, because every frame you take, no matter how sort of it might be doing it, every layer you do will be slightly out no matter what you sort of do, unless you have a trigger and don't ever touch your camera. So that's just not how we live, apparently. Get rid of the extras. So you can see that on the edge here it's created all the different layers. It's tried to put them all, it's taken those hard lines of the photo and put them all into one.
So even though Luke was on a tripod, there's still some, a bit of wind or whatever.
Yeah. So when you hit the shutter, mine moves a little bit. So
yeah.
So what have we got here?
So now we've got all those different photos we took.
Yep.
Stacked on top of each other.
So and I just like to get my head around what is actually underneath each one, so that we can peel back the layers. This is literally peeling back the layers, because I do something that a lot of photographers will be like, oh, why do you do that? Oh, it's really destructive, because we go over to the erase tool, and then to get rid of half of this, we better click that, and then we get rid of this line. Yep, see, so this is going to be embarrassing for a bit if someone that knows what they're doing watches this.
Nah, you're right, mate. I mean, look, I bang on about layer masks because if you make mistakes, you can go backwards and forth. Luke doesn't make many mistakes. You can see that in his finished work. He never prints a photo and then goes, I should use layer masks.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm all about insurance policies. And Luke's working, getting paid, doing it his way. So there's nothing wrong if you're getting there's no wrong way to do it if people are paying you to do it. You know what I mean? That's the ultimate, you've done it right. You've got money in the bank. Yeah. Yeah, Luke's using the erase tool. You could use the erase tool, as long as you don't muck it up. Or you could use layer masks. Yeah, which are very forgiving.
Yeah. Well, with layer masks, you can save your progress. Essentially, it's like trying to do a level on your 64, and you can't save it this way. But in your later console and stuff, you can save your progress wherever you sort of stop or start. Yeah. So I'm relying on the history of. So if I figure I stuffed that layer up, I can just go like that, or we can go, then step forward to where an appropriate place that we can sort of stop again is. So
Yeah.
Many different ways to, and that's why I like bringing different people in, because there's so many different ways to use Photoshop.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't like doing it my way, know that Luke's doing it a different way, and it's working out fine too. So
I think it's working out fine.
I think it is.
So you notice this photo isn't straight either. So I do some basic corrections like we did at the start, and then we come back to it later on. I'll export this back into Lightroom as another file, and we'll do some adjustments in there, or if there's stuff that isn't lit, maybe I can bring it out if it's a lighter colour, or endlessly screw with it if we want.
Right.
So
your workflow is input Lightroom,
Yep.
basic tweaks, export, bring in Photoshop, make the big finished file, take that back into Lightroom, and then colour grade and fix and pimp it
Because
out.
at the moment I can see on my screen isn't perfect, but it's a bit green, just from the background and things like that. So
Okay.
I do a lot of back and forwards. You can see me going on and off, just seeing what is actually lit and not. So that probably a little bit there is probably what we want to. So here we go. It does take some time, and just like doing the light painting, it is a bit of hit and miss, and you can sort of screw around with it. Cool. So once we got sort of that layer, and I'm happy with the bonnet there, I'm happy with the roof line, how it's come across, the lights come across sort of that roof line, sort of as nicely as we could get it in the time. We go to merge layers, and there we go. So now the next layer we've got this one.
So once you're happy, you merge, and that's your way of saying I'm done.
We go bang, next. So now here's where it gets a little bit funky. So that line across the windscreen that we probably don't want, we can just remove. And then
How are we going for time then?
So see how they've found the other line that's on the window there. So well, that's interesting. That must be the other mirror. So we've found the other mirror in the photo. If we go down this line, so that's the outside edge of the windscreen, it'll make it a bit more prominent. And across the top there. We might be able to completely go across that top line of the window and get rid of some of that. I might go back a bit because I like that line on the roof. It really brings out the shape a little bit better.
Copies at the top, and then you punching a hole through it to let the more light through.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're merging again.
Yeah.
Luke. He needs coffee. I need to watch this video.
So yeah, we've got pretty close there. On the top of that, you can see I've got some spillover on the top there. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but that's okay. We'll get to that later. We've got fire to play with yet, so that's the roof. That's the side of the car. I would say done. So this is our save, and like if I go save and then do a couple of things on the front here, say if I just go like this and I don't like it, we can go back, and then it'll unmerge itself. You see it comes back in the bar here. So if you think like, oh, I need another layer or something, or I need something that was on that other layer that you've remembered, you can go back to it. So you don't go too far. But you can, even if you do go too far and then you realise you do need, say, a light or a number plate or more of a wheel or something, and you've got another photo in Lightroom, you can always merge them out and together again. So then you just paint that through. What have we got? So now we've got the front of the car. You can see the front of the car is really well lit. I might even take that little line there that's a bit nicer as well. So just make sure that that's all above board. There we go. And we get rid of some of those shadows in that wheel and stuff, and we can see that other wheel start to appear. And then we have the front of the car.
Look at the camera live.
Yeah. That's not what I want. Edit that.
Look at that wheel, just that little pop.
Yeah.
There's the tread.
There's the tread and stuff, and yeah. So even look, So see, we've still got the edge of the car to go. Yeah, that's probably better there. So. Might get rid of that. That's annoying. We go over the car here. So we bring that to there. That's probably going to make that disappear a bit too much. So if we just go like that, maybe that'll be alright. And then we can see the bonnet there, and it looks, yeah, it sort of it looks okay to me. So that's all that matters at this point.
Keep in mind you're doing this live too.
Yeah. Just to make me more nervous. Thanks, Ben.
No, what I meant was like you'd imagine just the amount of tweaking goes into it when you're at home. Just
So probably don't want to see that blue part under the car. We probably don't want that. So we'll just leave it as it is, because it sort of draws the eye away from sort of the number plate and stuff, and the badge and the lights and the way the way the car's designed, basically. So
What kind of car is it?
it's an XB GT coupe. It's early 70s, late 60s. Yeah, so just looking, there's a hard line on the front of these cars that is really nice to bring out. So and yes, this can get very tedious. Yeah.
So what is that blue thing is like a...
I think it might be, yeah, the part of the sump or something there that is just protruding a bit. But you can see here, if I was to do this again, sort of in camera, this line that's coming up over the car, I'd want to continue on somehow so that it met up with the bottom of the windscreen there, so that you could see that was the outline of the car, like I've done on this side and down the back there. So yeah, so that's our basic car. I think that's as good as we're going to get it with the time we have.
That's awesome.
So that has moved a little bit. This is going to be really rough. I can see that this hasn't aligned very well.
Can you?
Yeah, no, I can. See where the wheel edge is? Watch the wheel edge. Yeah, so but look, we'll give it a go. We can always re-import it and mess with it more, and we'll mess with it less. So
at this point, would you nudge a layer, or would you just think that would be more trouble?
Probably more trouble than it's worth. I've definitely done it before when I've had to refocus shots or then sharpen different layers and stuff that didn't end up sharp for whatever reason and things. But just for the sake of this at the moment, we'll just keep going and sort of see where we end up. I'll probably import it again later, because at the moment we've got a really good, the car itself's really good. So if we can re-import it and then auto align it to that, then it might be a better proposition. But
I see what you mean.
yeah,
And it's probably better to stick with your process than introduce more variables.
Yeah. So
I think it is the fire coming.
yeah. You gotta be really careful around the car that if it were aligned, you'd be going a lot closer and harder to the edge of it.
You notice how Luke's doing a lot of clicks. As in, so every time he lets go of the mouse button, it's another history state to go back to, which is much, that's another little insurance policy Luke's building in too. So if you did it all in one big motion and then seized and went over the car,
then we'd have to go back half through this.
So all those little
just
clicks are little steps.
I might go like that. See, something like that, no one's going to notice the sort of edge of the car's changed underneath. Ooh, we don't want to do that. But places where we're going to find the edge of this in a second, and it's not going to be very nice. See the edge of the wheel there's sort of come up, which is not so great. So you've got to be careful. You've almost got to paint the edge of the car in as well. So that's much nicer to see there. I'll just go like this, see how it's sort of really hard to define that edge too.
Yeah.
So we'll just go, we might go really hard. And I hate to say it, but half of this is just tricking sort of people's eye as well, to think that that is the edge of the car. I'm not so sure how this would turn out if we were to print it after this layer, but so we're going too much in the car there, because it does this flick. So there's a flick in the car that with the back end of the car comes into sort of a bit more of a square shape. So it might take me ages to do this. So we might just go sort of roughly like that for the moment. Oh. This is where it gets really tedious.
The shape of the car is memory and big face.
Yeah. So you sort of, you'll maybe even do that with the mirror, because half of it is. See, it's come out all right, that side of the car. So it's probably the Photoshop program is probably aligned the front of it and then gone, you'll be right. You'll be right for the rest of it, mate. You'll get along there. So if we go, so my hardness and sharpness brush as well, sort of when we're not so close, we need it to blend in a bit more. We back off the hardness to do that. And then when we're at the lines of the car or at, some defined edge, we can go up to that edge and, do it. Just be done with it. Or create edges where we don't have them, or where it's really hard to define. So yeah. Yeah, so even if I merged all this together and then went with a clone tool and then went up to that edge, perhaps we might get away with it that way too, for the sake of this. So yeah, so that's really basically sort of done at the moment. We might go, so this is the layer for the car that I've now erased away.
Yep.
And just for my own, and for printing, if you're ever going to print it, you sort of want to get rid of a lot of this stuff because it'll show up in the layers sort of as you print it. So now we've got, see, and this is a good way as well to see that, like, if you have 2 or 3 different backgrounds, that, if you wanted to use that one, you could, because it's already there.
Yeah.
Or if you have a few different fire ones. So what we might do though, if we go like, we can merge them. Merge layers. If you're really tedious, you'd probably be saving this as you do it as well in different file names. That's probably another bit of insurance you could probably do if you're really keen. So we'll just go this bit of fire here. Yeah. So this is where my hardness brush is going to come into play. We'll go a bit harder for this because I can see what's happening. So just commit that to memory. Go like that. Too far. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, then we can see the fire coming around a little bit. Yeah. So make some of this a little bit lighter or darker. You can make things darker if you have it on layers and things. So yeah.
Woo!
So yeah, that's really basically how to do it. That's how I do it anyway. It seems to work. It seems to look good. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lee.
No worries. So, do you want me to go back into Photoshop and we'll into Lightroom and we'll just crop this up. So, because when it auto aligns all the layers, it sort of has a bit of white on the edges, and you get caught out very easily if you don't go and do this. Like, very easily, you go and look at it later, or someone posts a photo on Facebook, and you're like, "That's not quite square. What's going on?"
Do I need to do a camera reset?
There's 4 minutes left.
You got a 4-minute colour grade in your loop, you want me to reset?
Oh no, we'll easily do that in 4 minutes. All right. So what we'll do is we'll go save as. We'll export it as a XB GT XB GT. We'll just call it layers because why not, really? Because we're really creative today. We should call it, fully sick flame photo layers finished number 1. We could make some really long. Okay, how do we get out of this? We'll just hold it for us. I've changed my workspace. I don't know what I've done.
F, mate.
There we go. Cool. So yep, we can get out of that. And we go import again. I'm sure there's ways in new CS to import it straight back into
I don't know.
Lightroom maybe.
When you go back, it only goes back at the camera roll.
Oh, okay. So we've got to remember where we put it. So it was TAFE photos there somewhere, or 2018. TAFE shoot, XBGT, Euro 5 photo, layers, bang. Now we're back in Lightroom. Look out. So you notice the car isn't, to me that car isn't square, so we probably go pretty harshly. And with more time, you'd do this out of camera. You'd do this as at the shoot as well. So sort of bring that slider up, make it look a bit more, make it punch a bit more through it, and make it look a bit nicer. So what I do to make the car look like it's actually in the scene and it doesn't look so stark as well, we'd do a brush. I'll do a brush and just play with the temp a little bit so that the temp on the car is a little bit more nicer to actually see. And look, if we really wanted to be really technical, you'd probably go through the windows and do the colours, through the windows, but just for the sake of this and for the sake of time, just basically do it like this. So
It's incredible.
So we'll just see our overlays and trim up some of that. It doesn't want to do it. It's funny going from the shortcuts from one program to another.
Yeah. Quite a bit different.
There's only 1 minute left.
Alright, cool.
That's
Go. We'll call that finished for the sake of this thing. And yeah,
Amazing. Thank you.
there we go.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for last night.